So, good afternoon, back. Our next very special guest, I think we only have very special guests today. Our next one is Yonatan Shapira. I'm going to briefly introduce you, and then he's going to sing for us. And I'm very happy you're a famous singer. But you're also a pilot, a helicopter pilot. You've been that in the Israeli Defense Forces, and you're still a pilot, but no longer for the Israeli Defense Forces. And why that is, that we will discuss in our little conversation after you've sung for us. But first, you would like to say a little word about the song that you're going to sing for us.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me here today. I listened to all the speakers and was very emotional and moved by, especially Zait and Mazen. We come from the same region, and I feel that we are struggling for the same cause. And so I'm proud to be here with you. $16 ago, in the 21st of July 2002, the Israeli Air Force dropped a 1-ton bomb on the house of Salah Shehadeh in Gaza Strip. As a result, about 15 people died. Most of them were children. Some of them were babies still in the womb of their mother. I think one of the children, in a way, that died in this attack was the naive Zionist boy that I myself used to be back then. I was still an obedient rescue helicopter pilot in the Israeli Air Force. I didn't shoot anyone myself, but I was part of an organization that today I feel has more to do with the terror activity than defense. About a year later, in almost the same date now, the 23rd of September 2003, together with the 27 Air Force pilots, we published our declaration that from now on we refuse to obey our orders and we refuse to be part of the ongoing occupation and the ongoing oppression and discrimination and killing of innocent Palestinians. That letter that I initiated, and with the help of other pilots in the Air Force, in a way changed my life. And 16 years later, 2 months ago, I was living Palermo in Sicily, Italy, as a crew member of the Al-Auda boat. Al-Auda in Arabic means the return, the right of return of the Palestinian refugees to their homes, like Zait, that is originally from Tarshiha in the Galilee, like many other Palestinians that are still waiting to return to their homes. You know, Jews are singing in all the holidays and always praying about their love to the land, and they wanted to come back to their home after 2,000 years. This is the Jewish narrative that I grew up with, after 2,000 years returning to the Holy Land. Palestinians are dreaming about that for 70 years, and there are still politicians that are trying to cut these dreams and say that is too long from now. The same politician that will talk about the right of Jews to return. So I was a crew member on boat Al-Auda, living exactly at the same day, the same night that this bomb was dropped in Gaza, but 16 years later. We were all, of course, arrested by the Israeli Navy. Some of us were electrocuted. In previous attempt, I was participating. They shot me with a taser gun in my heart, thinking that maybe it will stop my wish to resist to this oppression. It did not. And I am accused now in Israeli court. They still didn't press charges, but this is part of the accusation when they arrested us, that I aided the enemy, an attempt to aid the enemy. Gaza is a big ghetto of 2 million people almost. Half of them are children. So if my enemy is 1 million children, I'm proud to aid this enemy. The short song I will sing to you is part of an album that I released just last year, and it's called Numu Numu. In Hebrew, Numu means go to sleep, rockabye, sleep tight. And I wrote it after the commander of the Air Force told us that we should sleep well at night. He said to all the pilots in a big speech that all of us should sleep well at night because everything the Air Force and the Army is doing is within the moral envelope of the military, of the State of Israel. Well, we did not sleep well at night. We organized this pilot refusal letter, and in a way this song is a lullaby saying good night to these pilots, to these children, to all these people, but it's actually the opposite. Numu is go to sleep, Kumu is wake up. It's kind of a wake-up call for all of us to open our eyes, to see the reality, to take responsibility, and to take action, not just words, but actions. So you're welcome to join me if you want in the chorus. It's just one word, Numu, and go to sleep now.
Thank you.
עצום עיניים, נומי בת גם את. מי שלא נרדם עדיין ירדם מיד. לילה טוב לתומר, לילה טוב אילן, לילה טוב לנתי ולילה טוב לדן, לילה טוב לדן. Numu Numu, Numu Numu Numu, Numu Numu Numu, Numu Numu Numu. אז רד אלינו אווירון עם פצצה של טון, ילדים קטנים ילכו עכשיו לישון, לישון שם למעלה בשמיים. טווסים יפי עיניים, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, מלאכי המוות מגיעים. Numu Numu, Numu Numu Numu, Numu Numu Numu, Numu Numu Numu. ומה יהיה איתנו היינו חברים טובים עד שהלב שלך נסגר. ומה נגיד למאיה שתשאל בעוד שנים, אבא, מה עשית? תסתכל לי בפנים. ובין שמש לירח במרחק ינשוף צורח, בגופה הדם רותח, אבא. וואו וואו
Thank you very much for this beautiful song. Now, there are many questions, and we have little time. But my most important question is, what took you so long to take this decision, to leave the army after 15 years of working in the army? What is the process? What made you finally decide, this is enough, I go?
It was in 2003 that the letter was published. It was about a year of working on it secretly. We didn't want anyone to find out about it that can harm the initiative, so I had to go from pilot to pilot and carefully ask them and kind of fish those who are already in agreement with us, so no one will tell about us and the initiative will be crushed. But before that, I was like a typical Israeli mainstream guy.
And your father was a pilot in the...
My father was
also in the army.
A fighter pilot. He was a squadron commander in the war in '73. And like all children, you grow up, you want to be like your father. And personally, I wanted always to fly and to be like a bird in the sky and to fulfill this dream, but also to protect my country. I was super in belief that this is the way a boy like me should grow and then go and defend his country. So I was about 10 years rescue pilot, and I brought many people to hospital, many children, but also many soldiers. And it took me a long time to connect the idea that I am part of an organization that is committing crime, even though I myself...
Sorry to interrupt. You rescued people, victims from both sides, right?
Yeah, but mostly Israeli, of course. And it took a long process of realization and connecting of ideas and actions together. The realization that to pull this stick, the collective of a helicopter, and to feel this magnificent power and energy of being a pilot and controlling this big machine, and connect this to all the bad things I don't like in the world, was the hardest part. And that's why many people didn't want to join us, because they just, like kids, they like to play these expensive toys that we get for free from the United States. And it's hard to convince them. And that's why I think the process is so long, because we have to battle the negligence and the denial, the state of denial that we grow up in. Then when you realize, and to me personally it was in several specific moments that I told you one of them, but there were also a moment that I was a member of a dialogue group in Neve Shalom, Mohat Salam. It's a place with Israelis and Palestinians that engage in dialogue. And I was sitting next to a student from Nablus, from the West Bank, and only then, sitting next to this young Palestinian guy, being ready, I was ready to introduce myself as an Air Force pilot that is for peace. That was my little speech that I planned to say. But then the guy before me was a student from Nablus that told us about his sister just got paralyzed because her house was shot by a missile from a helicopter. And his sister was paralyzed from her chest down. And then came my turn to introduce myself as the peace-loving Israeli pilot. And in that moment you understand that it's all a big lie. There is no difference if I'm just flying rescue missions, but my friend in the other squadron is killing tons of children and dropping one-ton bombs on Gaza. Then I realized that I have to do something, and that was the moment that I decided that I cannot be quiet and I cannot be silent anymore, which is, by the way, the lesson I got from my own grandparents. Most of their family perished in the Holocaust. My grandparents' family died in the ghettos and in the concentration camps in Poland. And I always learned from them and from my teachers in school that these things happened because the world was silent. And when I felt that horrible crimes, and I don't have to compare these crimes, it's enough that it's horrible crimes happening to innocent people. So I could not continue to be silent, and that's why I basically engaged in this kind of nonviolent activism. It was a beginning of a long journey that eventually led me to sail to Gaza and try to break this illegal blockade.
Mm-hmm. Next to you sitting is Jimmy Kegel, a student of disaster risk management here in Arnhem. And he also has prepared some questions.
Yes, Jonathan, we just listened to a beautiful song. Thank you for that. Me, myself, I'm a musician as well, or at least I make music. And I truly believe in the healing power of music to bring people together and to share our love for this world. And I was wondering, in your opinion, what does music and arts mean to you when you speak about peace building? And how do you think we can use arts and music as an instrument to resonate a sound of peace?
Thank you for this question. I was actually never asked this in the context of giving talks and lectures, because it's either I give a talk about the occupation and refusing and everything, or I make a concert. So thanks for this question. For me personally, music and art is another form of resistance, a nonviolent resistance. And in recent years, when I overcome all these fears of coming out with your art to people, I found out that some people, not all, are more affected by my songs than by my words. Sometimes your words as an activist can be too difficult for people to digest, because I'm saying pretty harsh things about the country I love and about my family as a people, and it's sometimes hard for people to listen. I'm saying very clearly that I feel that I was a member of a terrorist organization. And for those who are still serving this system, one way or another, it's very hard to hear. But when they hear a song, sometimes something in them softens. And several times people came to me after concerts and said, when you do these demonstrations and these actions, it's hard for us. But now when we heard these stories and songs, we feel a little bit more close to these things. So I choose both ways, because just music and art is not enough. And just words is also not enough. So I'm trying to combine it, just like I'm trying to combine these two extreme things. For example, I'm facilitating workshops between Israelis and Palestinians living in 48 in a place called Neve Shalom, Mohat Salam. But at the same time, I'm a strong supporter and advocate of BDS, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, that call for huge international pressure, economic, academic, artistic, financial sanction, all these measures in order to stop the occupation and to stop the apartheid. But I can live with these contradictions, doing the soft activism and doing more the hardcore one.
Thank you.
And I guess the two strengthen each other, of course.
I think we are all looking for some kind of balance in our life. And if we just shout and do extreme actions that involve in confrontation, it's quite difficult to maintain your sanity. So for me, it's the way I find the balance in this action and how I keep feeling normal. You know, I'm not only all the time on the barricades and on the boats ready to hit the walls. I'm sometimes facilitating a group of high school kids that are trying to talk to each other, or I sing to people. And I think it's important for all of us in our life to find this kind of mechanism of balance.
Thank you. One last question, unfortunately, I'm sorry. You mentioned that the space for non-violent resistance in Israel is shrinking, although you could also say there are more people joining your campaign, but at the same time it's getting more difficult. So what is the future of the non-violent movement in Israel at the moment?
I think it's very similar to what Mazen and Zait were talking about. Non-violence is important internally for us and for the movement, but if this voice is not being heard outside in the larger community, in the country, in the region, and in the world, we doomed to fail. Without the huge pressure from outside, the South African apartheid would never end. And it was also thanks to the boycott against the South African regime that ended the apartheid. So I'm here asking you to help us in our non-violent struggle. Without your help, it will escalate to only violence. With your help in the EU, putting huge pressure on the state of Israel, not just by talking, but actions, by stop sending weapons to Israel, by stop arm trading with my government, by starting to apply boycott, then there is a chance for the non-violent struggle. And I'll just end, if I can, for 1 minute. As we speak now, there is an important struggle happening in a place called Han al-Ahmar. It's next to Jerusalem, and it's basically a small Bedouin community that was kicked out, expelled from their houses back in 1950, 51, 52, by Israel when they built Air Force bases in the desert in the south. They were kicked out, and they came to live near East Jerusalem, in a place that belonged to Palestinians from Anata. It's in East Jerusalem. They lived there for almost 70 years. And a few days ago, the Supreme Court in Israel finally ruled that the Israeli army and the police have the right to expel them and to ruin all their houses and demolish everything. For the last few nights, my mother, who is also an activist, and other Israeli, Palestinian, and international activists are sleeping there day and night in the tents, waiting for the forces of demolition that will come and will rip these houses apart and send all the kids and all the grown-ups to leave. They want them to build their houses next to a dumpster, next to a sewage facility somewhere in a very horrible place. So it's a question. It's a question if this non-violent struggle that happened in Khan al-Ahmar as we speak now will be answered by silence from Europe, by silence from the world, and the Israeli army and Israeli police can demolish everyone and send them to live next to this dumpster, or something will happen. And maybe the European Union, for example, will not just say that they are against it, but will do concrete actions that twist the arm of the Israeli government to force them not to do this crime. So this is, if I want you to remember one thing from my talk today, it's not my song, it's not my story, it's this place, Khan el-Ahmar, a small Palestinian Bedouin community next to Jerusalem, facing eviction as we speak, maybe now, maybe tomorrow, maybe in the day after. And it's up to you and to the international community to decide if this non-violent action that is taking place there by Palestinians, Israelis and internationals is going to be answered by real actions that will stop it or by silence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.